It's typical Trump. All bluster, very little substance. He talks a tough game, but then when pressed on it, he's an armchair tough guy. I hate to say it, but this is a guy who said that John McCain is not a war hero, yet he sought his own 5 military deferments.
What's up, everybody? Major Retired Richard Ojeda here, and Pete Hegseth and Tommy Tuberville are walking, talking warnings of what happens when loyalty to a man replaces loyalty to a country. This is not about serving the people. This is not about honoring the Constitution. It's about catering to Donald Trump's fragile ego and consolidating power at all costs. Pete Hegseth's rise to MAGA stardom is the perfect example. Here's a guy who once had the guts, or maybe just the brief clarity of thought, to call Trump all bluster, very low substance. He pointed out the obvious. Trump is an armchair tough guy who insulted John McCain, a man who survived unimaginable torture as a prisoner of war. And Trump's cowardly excuse? 5 deferments. This isn't just a bad look, it's a disgrace. But what did Pete Hegseth do after calling it like it is? Did he stick to his convictions? Of course not. The man did a complete about-face, abandoning whatever principles he had left to become one of Trump's most loyal foot soldiers.
And I'm proud of what I fought for. I'm not going to back down from them one bit. I will answer all of these senators' questions, but this will not be a process tried in the media. I don't answer to anyone in this group. None of you. Not to that camera at all. I answer to President Trump, who received 76 million votes on behalf and a mandate for change. I answer to the 100 senators who are part of this process and those in the committee. And I answer to my Lord and Savior and my wife and my family. I'm proud to be here. And as long as Donald Trump wants me in this fight, I'm going to be standing right here in this fight, fighting to bring our Pentagon back to what it needs to be.
When his nomination came up, he didn't pledge allegiance to the American people or the Constitution. He openly declared, "I don't answer to anyone. I answer President Trump." That's not just embarrassing, it's dangerous. A public servant admitting that his loyalty lies solely with one man is the stuff of autocracies, not democracies. And then there's the matter of his personal life. Back in 2018, his own mother accused him of being a liar, a cheater, and an abuser of women. She didn't just make vague statements. She urged him to get help, to confront the truth about himself. These weren't the words of a political rival or a random critic. These were the words of the woman who raised him. But now, with Hegseth's political career on the line, his mother has now suddenly changed her tune. She's on TV calling him a patriot and a good father. If this doesn't reek of damage control, then I don't know what really does. Hegseth's response to his mother's accusations was to dismiss them as anonymous nonsense. Let me tell you, folks, this wasn't some Twitter troll throwing shade. This was his own mother. The mental gymnastics it takes to write her off as irrelevant is Olympic level. And yet, the MAGA machine doesn't blink. They spin, they deflect, they gaslight, and they hope we all forget what we heard.
Who are we to say that we're a better vetter and picker of people than Donald Trump?
Isn't that you're advising consent? That's your job.
Advising consent, but that's more the Democrats.
But don't you think both sides should do the vetting?
Well, yeah, to some degree. I mean, but we have to be convinced. I mean, they should do all the background work. They should go after our nominees. I've not heard very little from the left. Donald Trump did all the vetting they needed to do on Pete Hegseth, and I just can't believe we even have people on our side that are saying, well, I've got to look at this, got to look at that. What they're doing is they're throwing rocks at Donald Trump. They're not throwing them at Pete Hegseth. They're throwing them at Donald Trump because they're saying, well, we don't believe you did the right vetting and we don't believe he can do the job. Wait a minute. That's not our job to do that. That's the Democrats.
Tommy Tuberville is another shining example of the MAGA cult's relentless prioritization of loyalty over competence. Here's a man who openly admits he doesn't think it's the Senate's job to vet Trump's nominees. Let me repeat that. He doesn't think it's the Senate's job. Who are we to say we're better pickers of people than Donald Trump? That's what he said, folks. This is literally one of the Senate's most important responsibilities. It's written in the Constitution, advise and consent. You're supposed to make sure the people running this country aren't unqualified, corrupt, or outright dangerous. But Tuberville is perfectly fine handing over that responsibility because, in his words, Trump knows best. Alabama, you've got to do better. This man is the dumbest senator in the chamber, and that's saying something. He's out here blocking military promotions, claiming he's taking some sort of principled stand, while at the same time letting Trump cronies and unqualified hacks slide into key positions without a second thought. Tuberville doesn't just misunderstand his job, he's actively refusing to do it. And let's not overlook the hypocrisy that MAGA has perfected. When Hunter Biden's personal life was dragged into the public square, they had no problem putting his explicit photos on billboards and holding them up during congressional hearings. Marge the Trainwreck Green was all too happy to wave those pictures around, claiming it was in public interest. But when Pete Hegseth's own mother accused him of being an abuser, suddenly it's a privacy issue. Suddenly the GOP cares about fairness and decency. Give us a break. If you're going to air someone's dirty laundry, you don't get to cry foul when your own mess gets exposed. That's the real MAGA motto. Rules for thee, but not for me. They've turned hypocrisy into an art form, and they're counting on their base to be too blind or too loyal to notice. The thing is, this isn't just about Hegseth or Tuberville. It's about what these two represent. They're symptoms of a larger disease within the GOP, a party that has abandoned its principles in favor of bowing to Donald Trump. Tuberville's refusal to vet nominees is just one example of how far this party has fallen. The GOP that once prided itself on moral values and fiscal responsibility is now nothing more than a rubber stamp for whatever Trump wants. By Tuberville's logic, if Trump decided to nominate the dog catcher to lead the Department of Defense, the Senate should just nod and say, who are we to question the great Donald Trump? That's not governance. That's abdication. It's a complete surrender of the checks and balances that are supposed to keep our democracy functioning. All of this ties into a broader MAGA agenda, particularly initiatives like Project 2025. This is a plan designed to consolidate power around Trump and his loyalists, dismantle federal oversight, and replace qualified civil servants with people who will do nothing but say yes to Trump. It's not just a threat to democracy. It's a blueprint for dismantling it. What Tuberville and Hegseth are doing is enabling this agenda. They're not serving the American people. They're serving Trump. And every time they cry about fairness or privacy while ignoring their own blatant hypocrisy, they're chipping away at the trust and integrity that are supposed to hold this country together. The consequences of this blind loyalty are staggering. Trust in institutions is collapsing because leaders like Tuberville openly admit they won't do their jobs. Competence in leadership is disappearing because people like Hegseth, who pledge allegiance to Trump instead of the Constitution, are being elevated to positions of power. And moral authority? That's a joke at this point. The GOP's selective outrage makes it impossible to take anything they say seriously. This isn't just about politics. It's about the future of our democracy. When you've got senators who won't vet nominees, leaders who gaslight their own mothers, and a party that worships one man instead of the rule of law, you're in trouble. This is how democracies fall, when loyalty to a leader replaces loyalty to the people. The American people deserve better. They deserve leaders who put the country first, who stand up for accountability and competence, and who aren't afraid to speak the truth, even when it's inconvenient. Hegseth, Tuberville, and the rest of the MAGA loyalists have shown us exactly who they are. They've abandoned their responsibilities, their principles, and their integrity for a seat at Trump's table. And if we don't hold them accountable, they'll drag this country down with them. We have to demand better. We have to call out the hypocrisy, the incompetence, and the outright danger of this loyalty-first mentality. Because if we don't, the damage they're doing won't just hurt their party, it'll hurt us all. And let's be clear, we can't afford to let that happen. Our democracy is too important to let these clowns destroy it. And that is an absolute fact. Sappers clear the way, airborne all the way.